Milionária dares single dad, fix the generator, and I will marry you. But will he? The sun began to set beyond the horizon, casting an eerie orange glow over the dilapidated house. Laughter echoed through the cracks in the porch as a single dad, Jake, knelt before an old generator. The air was thick with tension, buzzing like the broken machine before him. This wasn't just a mechanic job, it was a wild dare thrown his way by Lila Grayson, the town's enigmatic millionaire. Rumors swirled about her wealth like storm clouds, but none compared to the madness of her challenge. Fix it, and I'll marry you. She said, half joking, but those bright, piercing blue eyes held a glimmer of sincerity. He toiled with the rusty bolts, sweat trickling down his brow. The townsfolk gathered, eyes glued on the spectacle unfolding. Can you believe this? One whispered to another. Jake's nerves danced a wicked tango. The sound of whispered secrets rose like smoke, curling around him. Strange things had always happened in this sleepy town, especially around Lila. She had this aura of mystery unlike anyone else, an unexplainable energy that pulled folks in. Maybe it was her luxurious lifestyle or the way she would stroll into town in a brand new convertible, the engine purring like a wild cat. The townspeople would murmur, "What is her story?" But really, it was her strange connection to the supernatural that kept folks awake at night. Many claimed she saw visions, whispered advice from shadows only she could understand. As the generator rattled one more time, the crowd leaned forward, holding their breaths. Was he really going to do it? Could fixing the generator really lead to him winning the heart of a millionaire? The air crackled with anticipation, and then, right when Jake hesitated, the generator let out a loud pop, followed by an unsettling silence. Eyes widened in shock. Just then, Lila appeared behind him. "You can't back out now, Jake. What are you scared of?" Her voice was like honey, sweet yet dripping with challenge. He could feel the weight of her gaze. The prize, or the trap? It felt like a gamble, laced with both hope and fear. Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. Jake's hands trembled at the mechanics. Could he fix this thing? His chest tightened. The murmurs grew louder, intertwining with the heartbeat of the dying machine. The stakes felt insurmountable. Every eye was on him. Would he rise to the occasion and seize this opportunity, or falter like the generator under his hands? In that lingering moment, questions hung thick in the air. What would happen if he failed? What secrets would remain hidden if he succeeded? Would he win more than just a bet, or would he uncover something sinister? As the setting sun swallowed the light, shadows danced ominously around him, waiting for a decision. Jake's heart raced as he squared his shoulders, determination fighting against the doubts churning in his mind. He couldn't let fear paralyze him. Lila's challenge had felt like a spark, a promise of something thrilling, something life-altering. But now, standing in front of the dying generator, that excitement morphed into a heavy burden. "You know, Jake," Lila's voice sliced through his anxiety as she stepped closer. The crowd buzzed like a hive, curiosity fueling their whispers. There's more at stake here than just a marriage proposal. Her eyes held a depth that made him gulp. What did she mean? The air crackled around them, charged with an unseen electricity that mirrored the generator's state. He inhaled deeply, filling his lungs with the scent of rust and desperation. His hands resumed their work, but with each twist of the wrench, he felt the weight of destiny looming. Would he unravel the mystery woven into this act? Or was he treading on dangerous ground? A clamor erupted from the crowd, shattering the tense silence. Someone shouted, "Is it working?" Jake flinched, losing focus for a moment. He glanced toward Lila, her eyes sparkling with mischief, but something else lingered there, an unspoken fear. The generator sputtered once more, but this time it felt different. He fumbled with his tools, cursing his shaking hands. Every moment stretched, feeling like an eternity. He could swear he felt the machine throbbing beneath the surface. Maybe it wasn't just mechanics, maybe it was somehow connected to Lila, her mystery, her past. The very mention of a marriage proposal seemed to glow with supernatural significance. A chilling breeze swept through the setting, making the hairs on the back of his neck stand up. He stole another glance at the townsfolk. Many had pale faces, eyes darting nervously. What wasn't he being said? A shadow shifted in the corner of his vision, a gaunt figure lingering just outside the light. Jake. Lila's voice pierced through the clouds of confusion. Focus. You can do this. You're not just fixing a generator, you're unlocking a path to something unimaginable. Panic thrummed inside him. What if she was right? What if this was more than a bet? Just as he poised himself to let hope take over, the shadows lengthened. The gaunt figure moved closer, an unsettling presence bathed in fading light. Was there something lurking in those depths, waiting for him to fail? His breath hitched as he turned back to the machine, heart pounding like a bass drum in his ears. The town's collective gasp caught in his throat. He tightened the last bolt, electricity sparking at his fingertips. Would it spark life? Or would it explode? With a shaky hand, he pulled the lever. A rumble echoed through the ground, pulses racing, thundering like a storm. The generator coughed to life, sending waves of noise cascading through the gathering crowd. Cheers erupted, but despair overlaid the celebration. Glaring at Lila, he saw that the shadows clung to her, dark and swirling. Jake's heart sank. It seemed this victory brought something else along with it, a darkness tied to her mystique. Jake, she whispered, stepping closer. You don't even know the half of it. You've just awakened something we can't ignore. And just like that, an ominous chill swept over them. What other revelations lay in store? What darkness had he unleashed? As chaos rippled through the crowd, Jake's pulse quickened. What do you mean, Lila? He demanded, desperation clawing at him. Before she could reply, a crack of thunder lit up the sky, and shadows danced menacingly around them, as though waiting for the storm to take hold. The generator roared, a ferocious beast coming back to life, but its revival seemed to summon specters from the past, lurking among them. Jake looked into Lila's wide eyes, her expression a mix of anticipation and dread. The gathered crowd seemed electrified, their cheers mingling with the unsettling whispers that floated through the air like restless spirits. Suddenly, the lights flickered wildly, casting erratic shadows that twisted the faces in the crowd into grotesque masks of shock and fear. Jake's stomach knotted, and he couldn't shake the feeling that something greater than his ambition was at play. As he glanced towards the gaunt figure that had disturbed him earlier, he felt a cold sweat break across his brow. It had shifted, stepping farther into the light, a woman, with hair as dark as night, eyes piercing through the chaos. Lila took a step forward, breaking the wall of dread that surrounded them. It's not just the generator, Jake. It's connected to this town, to me. They're here because of what you just did. Her voice trembled, as if acknowledging something far larger than them both. What do you mean? He shouted, his heart racing. Every word felt heavier than the last. The storm above rumbled ominously, echoing the turmoil within him. What is it you've awakened? The crowd fell silent, a collective intake of breath filling the air. Every gaze turned toward Lila, waiting for the truth to unfurl, yet it hung there like a dark cloud. The generator powers more than just lights, Jake. It powers the very fabric of this town's fate. We've been under a curse for years. The words hit him like a punch. Jake's hands trembled as he gripped the tool, reality slipping from his grasp. A curse? You have to be kidding. This isn't some fairy tale. But deep down, he knew it was. There had been whispers of strange occurrences, unexplained disappearances, cycles of misfortune that seemed to ripple through generations. What had he done tonight? He had become the architect of their fate, whether he wanted to or not. Lila, why didn't you tell me this before? His voice cracked, betraying the fear creeping into his soul. If they weren't just fighting to fix a generator, but battling something wicked, what hope did he have? Tears shimmered in her eyes, reflecting the chaos swirling around them. I didn't know you could bring it back, not like this. You've reawakened something that was supposed to stay quiet. She shook her head, her voice softening. And now it's coming for us. We need to leave. Now. The ground beneath them seemed to tremble, as though the very earth was responding to Lila's words. A low growl reverberated through the air as shadows grew bolder, shifting and coiling like living creatures. The woman from the edge of the crowd stepped forward, determination etched across her face. You have unleashed the storm, and we can't hold it back. Jake's breath quickened, panic welling inside him. What's the storm? What does that mean? But the woman lifted a hand, silencing him. We don't have time. They'll come for the source. Come with us or face it alone. The crowd stirred, fear splintering their resolve as murmurs spun into frantic pleas for clarity. Jake felt a weight on his chest, a battle raging between the impulse to fight and the instinct to flee. Jake! Lila cried again, urgency threading through her tone. We have to go now. Torn, he looked at her, at the swirling shadows looming closer, and at the frightened faces surrounding him. There'd be no more second chances. Just as he opened his mouth to speak, a piercing shriek sliced through the air, freezing every heart in place. The gaunt figure of the woman lurched forward again, pointing ominously toward the encroaching darkness. It's already too late, she screamed. Jake felt his pulse race. The storm had come for them, and he would have to make a choice that could either save them or seal their doom. Jake's heart pounded so violently he thought it might burst from his chest. The shriek had cut through the frenzy like a knife, and suddenly, the crowd was no longer just spectators, they were prey. With the storm swirling ominously above and shadows encroaching like hungry wolves, every second felt amplified, stretched almost to the breaking point. Jake, please. Lila's voice broke through the chaos, its urgency seeping under his skin. He took a step back, feelings of fear grappling with a fierce instinct to fight. The air crackled with a static energy, a tangible reminder of the unseen force building just beyond reach. We have to get to the archives. The woman shouted, her dark eyes wide with intensity. The answers are there. We can stop this. Archives? What are you talking about? Jake uttered, his breath caught. The town's history. It holds the key to ending the curse. The generator's awakening it disturbed the ancient spirits. They're restless. The gaunt figure's voice pierced through the fog of disbelief clouding his mind. A series of low growls echoed around them, shivering through his bones. Shadows began to slither closer, whispering his name like a dark lullaby. He felt the collective breath of the crowd as they recoiled in fear, glancing back and forth, searching for any semblance of safety that had slipped through their fingers. Make a choice. Lila pleaded, her face pale, fear etching lines into her youthful features. We can't fight it without understanding what we're up against. We have to move. He nodded, but uncertainty gnawed at him. Could he face what lay ahead? What if it's worse? Jake asked, his voice a hoarse whisper. What if it's all true? What if this is the end? There's no time for what-ifs. Lila shot back, grabbing his arm and moving with fierce determination toward the town's center. He felt the fire of her conviction igniting something within him, a flicker of hope against the overwhelming despair. Just as they started running, a powerful gust of wind swept through the crowd, and a mournful wail swept past them. It shook the trees and rattled the town's bones. The shadows reshaped, twisting into grotesque forms that flitted between the people. Gasps reverberated through the air, panic blooming like a seed ready to explode. Get to the archives. Now. The woman shouted again, her voice cutting through the panic like a bright light in a storm. Jake sprinted, heart pounding in his ears, each step taking him deeper into the heart of the impending darkness. Lila was always one impulsive decision ahead, her determination blazing a path through the terror. But as they approached the old library, he could feel a heaviness settling over him, like a storm cloud ready to burst. The door swung open by itself, creaking in protest as if protesting their arrival. A low, mournful sound echoed from within, a symphony of sorrow entwined with fury. His hands were clammy, thoughts racing. Were they truly prepared to confront whatever lurked inside? But there was no turning back, not now. They were already trapped in this perilous storm. Whatever it is, we can face it together, Lila assured him quietly, her bravery washing over him with unexpected warmth. He nodded, letting the weight of her words bolster his resolve. Together, they stepped inside, the door slamming shut behind them with a finality that sent chills down his spine. The darkness within seemed alive, swirling and pulsating, as the shadows whispered secrets, growing louder, and then he heard it, a mother's cry echoing through the silence, an anguished wail that seemed to pull at the very core of his being. It was a sound steeped in pain and longing, and it clawed at his heart. Jake. Lila's breath hitched. What did we just walk into? He stepped further, drawn by the sound, trembling. Every instinct screamed at him to turn back. But the truth was beckoning, and somehow, he felt like he was standing at the crossroads of fate. They had come for answers, but how much of themselves would they lose in the pursuit? A flash of light ignited in the center of the room, illuminating a figure cloaked in shadow. You shouldn't have come here, a voice murmured, an undertone of both warning and welcome. Jake's throat tightened. There was no looking back now. The darkness had waited long enough for them to stumble into its embrace. What would they uncover in this whispering void? And would it break them or bind them closer together in the depths of horror? In that moment, Jake felt the gravity of destiny tugging at him. Behind the veil of shadows lay the key to their salvation or their undoing. As the figure stepped toward them, Jake's resolve wavered. How do we end this? He dared to ask, voice trembling as the air grew thick with an otherworldly tension. But the figure only smiled, eyes gleaming with ancient knowledge, and his gut twisted with the eerie realization that the answer might cost them everything. The figure took a step closer, the dim light casting eerie shadows across its face. Jake's heart hammered so loud he could barely hear the muffled cries echoing in the dark corners of the library. Lila clutched his arm tighter, her fingers digging into him like a lifeline. Do you want to know how to end it? The figure whispered, its lips curling into a sinister smile that sent icy fingers down Jake's spine. Are you willing to pay the price? What price? Jake managed to breathe, trying to sound braver than he felt. Truth is a heavy toll, it replied, tilting its head as if weighing Jake's resolve. For answers, blood must be spilled. Jake's stomach churned. Lila's breathing quickened beside him. In that suspended moment, the atmosphere thickened, words reverberating like a fresh graveyard whisper. Every instinct urged him to run, yet he found himself rooted to the spot, drowning in the weight of the choice looming before him. Jake, Lila gasped. We can't trust it. We have to find another way. But even as she spoke, uncertainty flickered across her face, reflecting back at him the same fear gripping his heart. The figure stepped closer still, its shadow reaching for them. You've awakened us, it hissed. You've disturbed our peace. But within the archives, there lies the key as well as the cost. Around them, the library groaned in resonance. The shadows perked up, swirling around the figure like black smoke. For a wild moment, Jake considered what it meant to confront this darkness. What if this was destiny? Fanning the flames of innate dread, a thought flickered like a match in his mind. What if he could find the courage to face the curse and free the town from its unseen grip? Let us do it, he said suddenly, surprising even himself. The resolve in his voice ignited a spark. Tell us what we need to do. The figure's eyes glinted like shards of ice, brimming with ancient malice. You must find the artifact hidden within these walls, the heart of the archive. It resides in the Room of Whispers. You'll know it when you hear it. A deep, guttural roar echoed from outside the library, shaking the wooden beams above them. Jake's breath hitched as he glanced back at the darkened entrance, half expecting a monstrous shadow to creep through. The storm outside writhed with menace, lightning illuminating flickering specters within the room. What do we have to lose? Jake asked, though he knew the answer. It was not just pain they stood to lose, it was their very souls. Do not underestimate the force behind the curses, the figure cautioned, full of dark promise. To seize the heart of the archive, you must face your deepest fears. To end one curse you may awaken another. Lila turned toward him, her eyes wide and fearful. Jake, we should think this through. What if the truth is worse than we ever imagined? He took a deep breath, feelings crashing inside of him like thunder. I can't let this go. We might find out how to break the cycle. As Jake made his way down the dim corridors of the library, a whisper of doubt crept in. Was it worth risking everything for an answer? He pushed the thought away, gripping Lila's hand tightly as they plunged further into the darkness, the low growls of discontent still looming like specters. Keep your head focused on each step, Jake urged. Trust me. But even as he said it, doubt gnawed at his heart. The uncertainty loomed larger than the shadows. Unseen eyes seemed to watch them as they stepped deeper into the heart of the library, directed only by the echo of the figure's ominous guidance, and then they heard it, a low, eerie whisper that made the hairs on his neck bristle. Help me. Did you hear that? Lila whispered, voice barely above a trembling breath. Jake nodded, their eyes darting around. What if it calls out for you? What if it reveals your truth? The air thickened around them, and the shadows swirled, dancing closer with sinister intent. The pull of the abyss beckoned, and Jake's heart raced faster in his chest. Just when he thought they were about to find the heart, a chilling realization washed over him. What if the truth wasn't just buried in the dark? What if it was lying in wait like a predator, ready to strike when they least expected it? What if our deepest fears are waiting for us right beyond this door? He hesitated, breath hitching as the shadows surged around them, whispering secrets too dreadful to fathom. And then a deafening crash shattered the silence, a roar of wind accompanying the howling spirits, and Jake's grip on reality started to unravel. What lay on the other side, waiting to be revealed? Would they be able to face it, or would they lose themselves in the dark? The walls of the library trembled under the weight of the storm, rattling the aged tomes and dust-laden shelves. The crash echoed in Jake's ears as if it were a warning, reverberating off the very fabric of the library's haunted history. Staring into the darkened corridor before them, he felt a tremor of anticipation mixed with dread. Jake, we should leave, Lila urged, her voice barely a whisper against the shrieking wind. Whatever is on the other side, it can't be good. But the thrill of the unknown tugged at him, igniting a fire in his chest. The promise of answers, of breaking the curse wrapped around their town, bore down on him like a heavy fog. He stepped forward, every fiber of his being urging him onward, determined to face whatever lay beyond. Do you trust me? He asked, searching Lila's eyes for the reassurance he desperately needed. They lingered on each other, her wide gaze searching his, an unspoken pact hanging in the air. I want to, she replied softly, her grip on his arm tightening. With a deep breath, Jake pushed against the door. It swung open with a reluctant creak, revealing the room of whispers. The room was bathed in a ghostly light that flickered like fireflies caught in a trance. Tattered curtains danced as if stirred by an unseen hand, and decay and time seemed to spiral around them. A soft cooing whisper echoed the very air, thick with something alive. Help find me. Each word crawled beneath Jake's skin, a tendril of fear wrapping around his heart. He took a cautious step inside, and the air grew heavier, suffocating. What if it's a trick? Lila murmured, glancing around nervously, her breath trembling. Jake clenched his jaw. We can't back down now. We came for the truth. Suddenly, a shadow flickered across the far wall, quick and darting like a startled rabbit. Jake jumped back, instincts flaring. Did you see that? Yes. Lila whispered fiercely, scanning the walls. It's in here, whatever it is. The whispers multiplied, their words overlapping in a chaotic chorus. Jake, find the heart, don't let it awaken, it will consume. What do you mean? He shouted, frustration spilling into panic. Who are you? Silence followed, an eerie pause that hung thick enough to shatter. Then, from the deepest recesses of the room, a low rumble began. The walls vibrated, and a figure emerged from the darkness, a swirling mass that took on a shape, morphing into twisted features that seemed hauntingly familiar. Beware the price of truth, it hissed, eyes like pools of black water. To seek it is to face your own. Jake froze, recognition dawning on him. This was no simple shadow, it bore the likeness of someone he could never forget. The outlines of people, faces of the town's past, summoned from the grave by the insatiable hunger of the archive. They floated around him, swirling in a vortex of despair. No. This can't be. Lila gasped, horror glimmering in her eyes. She took a step back as if the shadows themselves could reach out and snatch her away. Feed upon their darkness, unleash their fears, and the heart shall reveal itself, the mass boomed, laughter echoing in the void. Jake's heart raced. The tears in his past opened wide, memories he had buried threatening to erupt. He stumbled backward, clutching his head as if to keep his sanity intact. No. I won tea. But the whispers grew louder, pressing against his mind. Memories of betrayal, loss, and guilt surged through him, clawing at his consciousness. Jake! Lila shouted, reaching for him. Don't lose yourself. Fight it. The shadows laughed again, a cacophony of sound that sliced through the room. They didn't just want to consume his fears, they wanted to twist them, to make him live them. As the tempo of the storm outside intensified, Jake grasped for the light within him, forcing himself to confront the darkness. I will not be chained by my fears. But with those words, the room trembled violently, shadows undulating like a tide. They surged closer, clawing in, closing in on him and Lila. Could he truly relinquish every secret that haunted him? And as the room of whispers spun into chaos, he knew the heart of the archive was calling. Would he find the strength to face his deepest fears or succumb to the darkness? In that moment, an icy hand pressed against his back, pushing him forward towards the heart. And then, everything went black. What if he wasn't just fighting for the town anymore, but for his very soul? Jake's heart raced as darkness enveloped him. The change from chaotic noise to silence was suffocating, clamping around him like a vice. His breath came out in shallow gasps, and the damp air tasted like iron on his tongue. The icy hand vanished, replaced by a strange warmth that surrounded him, beckoning him deeper into the void. Lila! He shouted, his voice ringing out, desperate and hollow, swallowed by the unknown. No answer came. The silence thundered in his ears. Somewhere in the abyss, he felt the pressure of unseen eyes bearing down on him, watching, waiting. Suddenly, a flicker tore through the darkness, illuminating his surroundings in a pale, flickering glow. Ghostly forms danced in the periphery of his vision, whispering secrets and humming softly, their expressions shifting between sorrow and rage. Jake squeezed his eyes shut, trying to block them out, fighting the urge to flee. But there was no escape, not now that he opened his eyes again. The light intensified, revealing a reflection in front of him. It wasn't a mirror but a haunting showcase of his deepest regrets, his failures stripped bare in vivid detail. He saw a younger version of himself turn away from a friend in need, the hurt etched on that boy's face. He felt the sting of lost love, cold fingers wrapping around his heart as the image played out, everything frozen in time. No, please. Jake gasped, his voice cracking under the weight of memories. But the shadows tightened their grip. Face it or let it consume you. The familiar whisper felt like a knife, digging deeper into him that he swallowed, fighting back the flood of emotion threatening to drown him. I want to be a prisoner of my past. He yelled, shaking his head violently. It felt as if he was wrestling with the very fabric of his soul. The flickers of light morphed, creating a swirling vortex of the shadows and emotions he had fought to bury. Reality twisted, and the library around him began to shift, the decor blurring as if he were on a roller coaster of despair. He felt weightless and heavy all at once, a jumbled mess of brain and heart. Jake! Hold on. The voice pierced through the chaos, a beacon of clarity. It was Lila. He felt a flicker of hope ignite in his chest, cutting through the gloom. Lila! He shouted back, straining against the tide pulling him away from her. I'm here. I can help you, but you have to let it go. Trust me. Her voice was strong, like a lifebuoy tossed to a drowning man. With every fiber of his being, he centered himself, pouring all his love for her into grounding him. I trust you. Suddenly, the light erupted fully, exploding outward as a wave, sweeping away the shadows and dragging Jake with it. The memories melted away, replaced by the vivid image of Lila standing steadfast, reaching out to him through the chaotic surge. Just as he felt hope swelling within his chest, shadows clawed back, wrenching him away once more. The echoes of past failures shrieked, "You can't defeat what you've been." No. Fred shouted, the word powerful, suffused with genuine determination. I'm not what I was. I'm more. The light enveloped him in a warm embrace, illuminating his surroundings. For a moment, the shadows hesitated. Drawing on the memory of triumphs, of every small victory he had ever fought for, Jake willed the light to grow brighter. As he did, a burst of energy surged through him. The shadows shrieked in terror, attempting one last grasp. But it wasn't enough. The light expanded, overwhelming darkness, pulling him up, until a brilliant light broke through the suffocating blackness, flooding his senses. As the light dimmed just enough to reveal the environment, Jake stumbled and fell to his knees, gasping for air as he looked around. The room of whispers had transformed. Where once darkness reigned, now there loomed an ethereal glow, revealing ancient books encased in shimmering glass. Shadows drifted away, defeated. He felt lighter, unburdened. Jake! Lila rushed forward, her eyes wide with fear and relief. You did it. You faced them. I think I did, he stammered, still catching his breath. But just as they began to gather themselves, a booming voice echoed through the room, icy and dissenting. You've pushed back the darkness, but you cannot escape the final truth. A chill ran down Jake's spine as the context wrapped around him. What final truth could possibly await them now? Jake glanced at Lila, the weight of the unknown pressing down once more. What does it want from us? And that question lingered, a heavy cloud of uncertainty hanging in the air, ready to shatter their fleeting moment of victory. The words lingered between them, charged with dread. The final truth? Jake's voice trembled, disbelief coating his words like heavy fog. Lila's expression shifted, concern etched into her features, her brows knitted together in disbelief. What does that even mean? She whispered, glancing around nervously as if the walls held secrets. Suddenly, a heavy book fell from its pedestal with a deafening thud. The sound sliced through the silence, reminding them they were not alone. Jake and Lila exchanged worried glances, the tension coiling tighter like a snake ready to strike. Is this part of it? Jake gestured toward the fallen book, half expecting an answer to emerge from its pages. A low chuckle echoed from the edges of the room, a cruel sound that sent shivers crawling down Jake's spine. Ah, the children of light think they can negotiate with shadows, the voice hissed, serpentine and smooth. The final truth is not an offer but a reckoning. With a flick of its unseen wrist, the air thickened, and the lights above flickered ominously. Shadows twisted and writhed, forming dark shapes that slithered toward Jake and Lila, pooling around them like ink spilled on paper. Face the truth of who you are, Jake. You cannot deny it forever. The voice boomed, resonating like thunder within the cavernous library. What have you become amid these whispers? What regrets define you? Jake's heart pounded. Regrets? Memories threatened to unravel him, faces, choices, paths not taken. He had fought past them, and yet here they loomed, hungry and expectant. Jake, don't listen to it. Lila broke in, her eyes fierce. We can't let it get to us. We've faced our pasts. We've conquered that darkness. Conquered? You think the battle is won? The voice sneered, icy confidence tinging its words. You are but pawns in a larger game. The final truth awaits at the crossroads of your spirits, Jake. The shadows around them danced dangerously, wrapping tighter around Jake's ankles, pulling him down, their whispers rising into a cacophony of accusations. He felt his breath hitch, the weight of both fear and truth pressing in on him. No! Jake yelled, forcing his way through the storm of voices. I am not my past. I will not let you define me. The conviction startled even him, but with each word, he felt a flicker of the bright light reigniting within. Then come, the voice crooned, softer now, an inviting purr hidden beneath the menace. Face the truth, and we will see just how bright your light can shine or if it will be swallowed whole. Jake glanced at Lila, the worry reflected in her eyes. His instinct screamed for him to run, to flee this insidious force. But he couldn't leave Lila behind. Not now. Not ever. As if sensing his hesitation, the shadows began to pulse, the darkness morphing into writhing tendrils that branched and twisted like grotesque branches. Jake felt the remnants of his past flaring before him. Fears he had long thought buried emerged like specters clawing to escape the depth of his mind. What are you so afraid of? One whispered sweetly, a faceless shadow leaning close. The boy you abandoned? The father who failed? Jake clenched his fists, the truth a primal chord resonated deep inside him. This was the moment of reckoning. You won't control me. He spat, but self-doubt gnawed at him relentlessly. Then step forward and embrace your truth, Jake. The voice thundered, the shadows shifting like storm clouds brewing disaster. Join me. Lila cried out, her hand reaching for his. Their fingers connected, and he felt her strength surge through him, propelling him against the pull of the darkness. Together, she implored, we can face it. Jake took a deep breath, ready for whatever came next. Was he truly prepared? The darkness blinked, anticipation hanging thick in the air. The temptation to falter loomed beside the unwavering hope in Lila's eyes. This was it, the time for reckoning was at hand. Would he step into the light or would the haunting past drag him back into oblivion? As Jake inhaled deeply, embers of determination ignited within him, fighting against the tide of shadows. And yet, a voice brooded in the distance, whispering, you think you know the truth? You haven't seen the half of it. And suddenly, the room trembled, the air electric with the weight of what was yet to come. Jake's reality wavered again, and he felt the ground slip away beneath him. What lay ahead could alter the very fabric of his existence. The rumble of the library's foundation reverberated beneath Jake's feet, each tremor echoing his racing heartbeat. Shadows flickered like angry tongues, reaching for him, desperate to pull him back into the murky depths. He was teetering at the edge of something unfathomable, the whispers growing louder, jangling like chains breaking free. Jake! Lila shouted, breaking through the clamor. We need to stand firm. Her grip on his hand tightened as if anchoring them both to reality. Firm right, he mumbled, his thoughts racing. But how do we face what we're running from? Panic clawed at him, making him feel small. Together, remember? Lila's voice steadied him. That's the point. We can't let these shadows own us. You're not the person they say you are. You are more. Each word was a dagger striking the darkness, igniting a flicker of hope in Jake's chest. But self-doubt still whispered evil things, vibrant and cruel. Lila, he started, but the shadows coiled around him tighter, drawing breath from his reservations. He had abandoned his ill-fated past, but it was here, lurking like a predator, waiting to pounce. Face them, Jake. Lila's voice pierced through the heavy air, her spirit like an unquenchable flame. With a determined nod, Jake stepped forward, pushing through the mist of doubt. I know who I am. He shouted, his voice ringing with newfound confidence as warmth surged through him, but the echo of his proclamation only seemed to deepen the darkness. The shadows morphed, coiling to form the shapes of people he had wronged, faces etched with disappointment and despair. Do you, Jake? One shadow spat, its voice a sibilant hiss echoing off ancient stone walls. You left us behind. Will you ever truly be free of the decisions you made? His heart sank, the weight of their accusations curling around him like a vice grip. Jake! Lila pulled him closer, grounding him. Don't let them fool you. They're nothing but illusions. Your past does not define you. With her words echoing in his mind, he forced himself to remember the good his son's laughter, the joy of new connections, the light that had fought through the cracks in his heart. Enough! He roared, the power of his declaration resonating through the shadows. I will embrace my past, but I won't let it continue to haunt me. As if summoned by his defiance, the shadows hesitated, flickering like candle flames caught in a gust of wind. The wall of darkness pulsed with uncertainty, the cacophony of voices fading into a hushed anticipation. Lila's grip felt electric. That's it. Keep pushing. Fueled by her support, Jake moved closer until the dark shifts began to separate, revealing a path swirling with luminous energy. It was a narrow beam of light, beckoning him forward with an almost palpable sensation of warmth. But moments before he could take another step, the ethereal voice returned, silken and sinister. You think you've won? You've merely scraped the surface. The final truth lays beyond, just beyond the veil you seek. It paused, almost savoring the moment. Will you take the leap, Jake? Or will you fall back into the abyss? Every instinct screamed for a choice, for a resolution. Jake glanced at Lila, whose eyes reflected both trepidation and strength. She was never going to let him fall alone. Together? He asked, his voice trembling with an intoxicating mix of fear and resolve. Always, she promised with fierce conviction. They steeled themselves. With a collective breath, Jake began stepping into the light, each step a surrender to the unknown. And as they crossed the threshold together, the air shifted and curled around them, awaiting the unraveling of their deepest fears and desires. But just as they reached the heart of the luminescence, the shadows erupted in a frenzied squall, their collective roar shaking the very fabric of reality around them. Welcome to the truth, it shrieked hysterically, stirred by an unseen force. And suddenly, the light pulsed violently, and all at once, Jake's world erupted into chaos. In that moment, he realized the truth would not come quietly. It was time to face what lay at the heart of his very being. Would they emerge victorious, or would shadows reclaim him entirely? Just what were the final truths waiting to be revealed? Amidst the chaos, light swirled around Jake and Lila, transforming the shadows into fleeting shapes that ebbed and flowed like smoke. Each collapsing wave took with it a fragment of his past, unraveling threads of regret and pain. The air vibrated with an otherworldly energy, like 1,000 whispered secrets trying to break free. Stay close. Jake shouted over the unsettling, wailing echoes that cocooned them. Lila's hand felt warm and steady in his, anchoring him despite the encroaching maelstrom. Together, she reminded him, squeezing his fingers tightly. Her resolve ignited something fierce within him. They could overcome this. The cacophony crescendoed, and the shadows danced around them, dark figures twisting through memories that tried to ensnare him once more. Faces flashed, the same haunting visages that had clawed at his heart, friends abandoned, promises broken, guilt laid bare. Yet his resolve solidified. This would not be his end. Face your truth. A voice boomed from the depths of the vortex, reverberating through the storm of whispers. Accept who you are. Jake inhaled sharply, grounding himself in the present. He had come too far to fall back into despair. I won't be defined by my mistakes. He shouted, his voice rising, stronger than before. I am a father. I am more than my choices. With each declaration, he felt the shadows flicker, their hold wavering. Lila shifted closer, her eyes locked onto his, shimmering with fierce determination. Fight it, Jake. Strength surged through him as he recalled every moment that truly mattered, the laughter of his son, the warmth of flying into new love, the triumph of choosing hope over despair. Each memory fortified him, lighting his path forward. He felt a deep, resonating pulse at the core of his being, an undeniable truth he had fought to forget, but now embraced. The shadows recoiled. You cannot escape, they screamed, but less assertive now, their form wavering like the flames of a dying fire. You cannot fight us. Watch me. Jake retaliated, pushing onward. I will embrace my truth. I will free us all. With that, he thrust his hands toward the swirling darkness, a shield against its suffocating grip. Suddenly, a ripping sound split the air, as if reality itself were tearing apart. Light surged forth like a tsunami, flooding the room with radiant energy. The specters began to scream, their cries dissolving into nothingness as the purity of light engulfed them, lifting the suffocating weight from Jake's chest. "Jake, look!" Lila cried, pointing at the remnants of the shadows disintegrating. Together, they felt the darkness lose its fierce grasp, the library pulsating with an energy that felt distinctly new, alive with hope. "Let go!" he shouted, entrusting himself to the moment. The last stubborn shadows fell away until all that remained was brilliant whiteness, enveloping them in its gentle embrace. In that instant, everything shifted. Jake felt the connection to Lila deepen, understanding that they had stepped into something extraordinary. The swirling light crystallized into a forming image. Before them, memories drifted in and out, a time where laughter reigned, connection thrived, and love spread like wildfire. "Do you see it?" Lila's eyes brimmed with tears as they stood before the heart of the archive, a radiant artifact cascading warmth into the very core of the library. "It's beautiful," Jake breathed, still holding onto her tightly. "We did it, we fought for our truth." The glow seemed to pulse with a life of its own, inviting them closer. As they moved together towards it, the warmth spread further, knitting wounds once thought too deep to mend. No shadows could follow them into this place, a realm born from self-acceptance, resilience, and love. "Jake, it isn't just about the curse anymore, it's about building something new." There was joy lacing her words, every syllable strengthening the bond that had forged among the trials. Together, he nodded, feeling the resolve settle deep inside him. As they grasped the heart of the archive, a rush of clarity flooded their minds. The final truths were not just shadows of their pasts, but the strength to create futures unbound by fear. They had emerged from the darkness, arms outstretched toward a dawning hope that promised brighter days ahead. The storm outside quelled, and the sun shone down warmly, illuminating the entrance of the library. The lingering chill of the shadows faded, replaced with the sweetness of freedom. "Let us go home," Jake whispered, casting Lila a radiant smile. "Home," she echoed back, her eyes sparkling. They stepped toward the brightened entrance, hand in hand, ready to embrace whatever lay ahead together. And with every stride into the warm glow of the setting sun, Jake knew they would build a life on the truths they discovered, brave, bold, and anew. Before it slipped from memory, they knew they had found not only resolution but a love that would weather any storm. So now, beloved viewers, here's the deal. You need to subscribe now so you don't miss the next thrilling tales coming your way. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm and show your support. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about this epic ending. And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who are craving a conclusion just like this. Your involvement means the world to us, so let us keep this incredible community thriving.